Welcome to another episode of the Marvel Cinematic University podcast. I'm your host for today, Jay Christie, while AC is running around trying to wrangle his kids. We are taking another step on the road to Doomsday. The road to Doomsday is paved with good pods, and also a place you can get good pods is the Marvel Cinematic University Patreon. That's patreon.com/MC University Pod, where for just $3, you get all of our episodes ever and access to our Discord. At a certain point, I think you're probably paying 0.001 cent per minute of content you get. So just consider that math. We'd love to have you join up and hang out with us on that Discord. We have a lot of great conversations, particularly about the Superman movie coming up, a lot of fun stuff. But we're not here to talk about that. We're here to talk about the road to Doomsday, street level characters, and I have some guys who know how to put their ears to the streets. We got a regular panel of friends of the show. We got the man. I looked. He is now. I did the math. I added up our appearances. I haven't done that in a while. Now the person with the fourth most appearances all time, the most of anyone who's never been a host of the show, Rod Morrow, the black guy who tips. Rod, how are you?
Hey, let's take it to the streets.
Exactly. And hailing from the streets of Western New York, the rough and tumble streets. I say that half ironically, but I remember I have a family friend who's from Utica, and there are some streets in Western New York, so I shouldn't say that too lightly.
Rochester, New York used to have a higher murder rate per capita than New York City. So
yeah. Hunter at DC from the hard scrabble streets. How are you?
good. Happy to be here.
And I mean, the man, he's from a lot of different streets, but you know him as the Don of Cold, Dalbin Osorio. How you doing?
I am so glad that I'm back with you guys for this not in the sheets, namely in the streets episode with my Marinex's finest Hunter Radesi, the Prince of Charlotte, Rod the black guy who tips, and Jake, you got some streets in Florida too, brother. You got some streets in Florida as well.
Yep. The thing I'm trying to explain to people about the streets in the South is like, and this is also kind of the case in the West, where it's like they look like regular streets because everyone has a house. It's like it's not like blocks. It's like no, it's like oh, they own a home, but that doesn't mean that they're not up to some stuff. But no, but yeah, we're here to talk about street level characters. And obviously, the question is what defines street level characters, and I think the best way to start is with the characters that made up the Netflix TV shows because those are like undoubtedly street level characters. They have street level issues, and of those characters, two of them have canonically been entered back into the MCU. Obviously, there are more coming. We know that for sure. But I think that the way I want to start is with Daredevil. How Daredevil is being used both as a character, and he's clearly, I think, the way that they are reintegrating the street level characters into the MCU. So, Hunter, I'll start with you because you're the man behind the KCBC. What is it? The Devil You Know beer. How do you feel like Daredevil, not just the show, but how do you feel like Daredevil has, in its first season, integrated itself back into the MCU?
Well, I mean, I feel like Daredevil is the right choice to kind of like lead the charge of bringing these characters back for a lot of reasons. I mean, obviously he's the most popular. That's like first and foremost business wise, he's the moneymaker. So it makes sense to kind of get that name and branding back out there. But also Daredevil's whole thing is that his DNA is the streets, right? Like it lives and breathes New York City. He lives and breathes his neighborhood. It's like his whole thing. So it makes a lot of sense to take a character who is both popular and sort of like lives and breathes this aspect of the MCU and kind of use him as the flagship to start reintegrating all of these other characters, especially when Daredevil is the character, I think, even in the comics, oftentimes, whose conflicts kind of engulf the other street level heroes. I mean, Devil's Reign, Shadowland, like you have multiple instances of this character's personal street level beef bringing all these other characters together. So it makes sense to kind of do the same thing in the shows. Yeah, and I think that Daredevil Born Again did a really, really good job of taking this version of the character that was introduced in the Netflix shows that people got used to seeing and kind of fell in love with, and this world that he established. And then taking the greater MCU, which the original show was not able to play with all that much, and kind of finally combine them. I mean, there were some bumps along the way. There were some production issues, but I think all in all, it went about as well as it could have, all things considered. And I'm really, really excited to see what this next season is going to bring in terms of expanding the street level universe ahead of Doomsday. And, it's confirmed Jessica Jones is coming back, right? So, Punisher, Jessica Jones, whoever else may be a surprise in the future. I'm really excited to see now that they have full control and like a full, clear creative vision, how they can take what they've already established and already kind of like reintroduced in Born Again and just grow that with new characters. I think it'll be really interesting.
Mm-hmm. Dalbin, any thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, first off, kudos to Hunter because the last time I was on the pod with Hunter, he suggested this like gang warfare Spider-Man 4 real street level, and it got me excited. And then to know that that's not what's happening, I'm kind of annoyed by that. So I think, I mean, I love what Hunter said about Daredevil being kind of the anchor being, if you will, to the street level heroes. It is fascinating though that as we talk about the street level heroes in Marvel, they are doing this without really their big street level hero. It's Spider-Man, right? Like Spider-Man's best stories are street level stories, and you kind of got to tell the story without him. But I do think Daredevil, Punisher, I think Echo, I think there's a lot of potential there to really show what's happening on the ground that is not necessarily separated from this like end of world event that is Doomsday, but just what happens after these heroes got to pick up the pieces after Victor Von Doom done laid them all out, right? And Daredevil's a really good character to do that because I think with him, the trauma we all know. I love that Born Again didn't rehash the same story as him, right? Like, oh, he went blind, his dad was a boxer, all that. I think we have that. I think where they moved him to at the end of the series, where now he absolutely unequivocally needs help from the rest of these guys, from the rest of these heroes. That's an exciting place for him because I think a lot of the really good Daredevil runs show how he doesn't really want to be part of a team. He doesn't want anything to do with these other heroes, right? And now he kind of has to because future President Fisk is gonna lay the hammer down in the next season. So I'm really intrigued to see what growth they continue to show from him and what growth they continue to show from these other characters that we haven't seen in a long time, like Jessica Jones, like Luke Cage, who's hopefully not Mike Coulter. Like
I got some doubt. Unfortunately, I think it's probably going to be Mike Coulter, just based on some social media stuff.
Yeah. I think I shared this with you, Jake. I've been off social media, and it has been fantastic.
No, I know. I'm sure it has been.
Fantastic. But the growth, because to Hunter's point, now that they're all under the same umbrella, these big events don't have to be just like, oh, this happened, a hole opened in the sky and the Shatari came through, but we don't really talk about that. No, now they could really show what that means for these heroes. So that's really exciting.
And Rod, for you, like, how do you feel like beyond just Daredevil? How do you feel about the other characters that might come in, and through that lens, if they're not being introduced in like a big movie, that they'll be introduced as side characters in a Daredevil story, maybe?
I mean, I always liked the Marvel Netflix shows. I kind of thought they got an unfair rap by the end. I know people were tired of them or whatever. They were 13 episodes and now we only have time for like 6 and 8 these days, but I thought that was good. I thought it fleshed out secondary characters and all that stuff, and I liked the Defenders because they kind of did something cool that you see in comic books. Like you're reading Daredevil and then, oh, who's this Jessica Jones chick, what's that about? And you start reading her book and then, oh, it ties into Luke Cage. Next thing you know, you got the Defenders and you're like happy, and I enjoyed that. And I like that they're coming back. I wasn't sure because of just how Hollywood works if they would bring people back, but I'm glad that they're coming back. I'm glad they got the people reprising their roles. And of course, my hottest take is I want to see the dude that played Danny Rand get another chance. Like, I think he got fucked. We treat him like he showed up on set and was like, I would like to look like an asshole. And I'm pretty sure he thought he got a cool ass job and then found out like, so we're filming in 2 days. Don't worry, we'll make the choreography up as we go. Like,
I mean, it actually is worse than that. The stories are on the set are worse than that. It's literally like a half hour they were still doing the choreography.
Yeah, so like anyway, I always felt he got a bad rep. And I do understand, like, it doesn't mean I don't want to see, like, even if they pass the mantle to an Asian person or something like that. Like, I don't think that has anything to do with it. It's just, I feel for him the way people felt about the dude that played Ahmad Best. where you saw
Yeah.
my best show up in the new Jedi shows, and you was like, "Fuck yeah, dude!" Like this is what it's like to be part of an actual working operation. I'm sorry you went through that bullshit.
Yeah.
That's how I would like to see Finn Jones get like at least
That's
a little
great
bit to
comparison.
shine.
That's a great
Well,
comparison.
and Finn Jones, Finn Jones walking onto a quality Marvel set, I think would probably blow his fucking mind.
I bet he
think,
would
like,
cry,
he'd be
dude.
like,
No
"Wait,
bullshit.
right?"
I bet he would cry in
Right?
his
Yeah.
dressing room. He would cry.
He
His
would just
last-
he would. Yeah, I agree. Go ahead, Hunter.
Last
Sorry.
public quote about it was literally, and I quote, "Give me a fucking chance."
Yeah,
Like,
I think if they're going to bring back this roster, everyone but him, then I think that they bring back him. Like I think
That's
that
what-
I think because I think there are a couple problems. One, obviously the fighting was a problem, and I think that like the character was written in like such a whiny way that clearly was not just the performance. I think that there was like a real miscalibration of like what he was like. He simultaneously was like too much of a babe in the woods about the way the real world worked, but also like annoying about being an idealist in a way that like no one would be. Like he did, and I think that that's why he was completely like blown off screen by other characters. But like, yeah, if they're gonna bring him back, especially because he's not gonna have to carry his own show, it's like because the thing about Finn Jones is he's not bad in the Defenders. That's the thing.
He's
That's the
also
one.
not bad in Luke Cage season 2.
No, he's actually really good in that episode.
Heroes for Hire episode, and he's like legit. Like he shows up, I was like, oh, that's Danny Rand. Like he can
You
do
could
it.
tell. You could tell
Yeah.
that dude had been waiting the whole time. Like, they gonna call you up for Luke Cage. He's like, fuck, let me get in the gym. Like, I'm not depending on the anyone on the set to help me. I need to show up as Danny Rand. I bet he was one of those weird people that are always in character. I bet he was a meta acting when he showed up.
He also pops on the screen in Game of Thrones when he's
He does.
Tyrell. Like that brother can
Yeah.
act, man. Like, that brother
That's
can act.
such a different character than Danny Rand, which like I thought he was like really interesting. Like that whole plot line, and I have a distinct memory of the scene where what's her face Marjorie is just like my brother can come in here if you need him to.
Yeah.
That scene is wild. But hey, it's Pride Month. What's about fucking ally Marjorie Tyrell? Like I don't give a shit. My brother can get in and get you
But
off.
why?
Like,
Why would that even be wild? He's the Iron Fist. Why wouldn't you bring him in to get you off? Like what do you mean?
Oh man, I have really strong thoughts about. I think the main problem with Iron Fist, just like while we're on it, was that was a show. So you look at like the MCU that was succeeding at that point in time, right? Like when you're looking at the movie version of this, it's like yes, you had your like Avengers characters who all kind of like fit in together in a cohesive way that made a lot of sense, and they were like tonally different, but also kind of tonally the same. And then they dropped Guardians of the Galaxy, which is like sort of a similar vibe, like the same universe, but also wildly different. And that's why people liked it so much. And that's why it was so exciting in Infinity War when you finally see the Guardians of the Galaxy meet up with the Avengers, where you're like, okay, we know they're going to meet up, but they come from such different worlds, but also the same world. Like, how does that mix? And that's what they should have been doing with Iron Fist on the Netflix side of things. I mean, I'm sure it was like budgetary reasons. I'm sure there were a lot of practical reasons why they didn't do this, but also they just like, that's a character in a story where you have this opportunity to take a street level hero who has elements that are so radically different from the other street level heroes and lean into that so that when he does meet up with these other characters, it's like actually interesting. And like he had the chance to be the Guardians of the Galaxy of the Defenders, and they kind of just didn't do that. They were so adamant of like, we're not going to show the Kunlun stuff, and we're not going to really like, he's going to keep talking about mysticism, and then everyone's just going to laugh at him, and we're not actually going to do it. And
we
that
needed
was
to
like,
see that fucking dragon, dude, like right away.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. Lean into it. They wanted to make a CW show. That's what they did. Like they casted my girl from 90210 as right, like as Joy Meacham. They wanted to make a CW show. They wrote him. I swear to you, they wrote him very much like how somebody writes a CW character. And like for me,
they had to make this.
Yeah, I wanted to see some cool shit. I wanted to see some karate and the dragon, and I wanted to see all these things. And you had set this dude up as a whiny trust fund baby. He's not Bruce Wayne.
The tone is so radically off base, right? That then they're like, well, we have a new showrunner and he wants to do the fun mystical stuff, but like he has to make a whole season that's like a segue into the mystical stuff because that was like it feels like too hard left
Yep.
if we just do it. And then season 2 and then gets canceled after season 2,
Yep.
which arguably has the most interesting cliffhanger of all of the canceled
Yes.
Netflix shows.
Straight up
So
didn't watch it, by the way. At some point I might,
Yeah.
if I need to. If it's announced he's coming back, I might take the time. But it
Yeah.
also like there's just a
It's
couple. Like,
good.
I'm sure it
It's
is.
good.
I'm sure it is. But there was definitely a moment when after season 1, I'm like, I don't need to do this again.
Yeah.
And no, I think that it just was the vibes were bad. But I think that I've said many times, I think Jessica Henwick as Colleen Wing
Yeah.
is one of the biggest bright spots of
Yep.
that whole thing. I think her being a big part of the Defenders is something I really liked. I've long said that I think that the problem with the Defenders ended up being that the hand stuff was just
Yeah.
a bit rushed and a bit like
Mhm.
I don't know, like generic. Like
Yeah.
it kind of felt like they yada yada a lot of it. It felt very that I think that show was really harmed by the lack of episodes, like because they especially because they killed Sigourney Weaver's character like 4 episodes in, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
like the big
so
twist.
I know that now that the cleaning lady is canceled, I know that Elodie Young said she's interested in coming back as Elektra.
Oh wow.
I was always iffy about her character on the Daredevil show, to be honest with you. But if they're bringing people back, bring her back.
Yeah.
You know, how
She
would
had
you guys feel about
she
bringing
had
her?
good chemistry with Matt though.
Mhm.
Like that wasn't a problem to me. Like, I mean, I know Matt's a slut, but it worked. Like it worked that she was his like kryptonite to his whole like I'm trying to be a good guy, and she's like, we need to kill every motherfucker we can, bro.
Yeah.
And I was like, I get it. I would try to change her.
She's another one where I feel like I think that she was really well cast. I really like Lodi Young in that role a lot, and I think she does have genuinely really good chemistry with Charlie Cox. And there's like flashes of brilliance in the way that they write her character, but both projects she was in, I think, she had the misfortune of being one plot line in 2 seasons that had like a lot going on
Mhm.
that I think sometimes it forced them to reduce her character in certain scenes or her plot lines to be like if it just felt like there could have been a little bit more that would have made her like just a little bit better. And so
Yeah.
I mean, not at all the same exact thing as Finn Jones, but I would also like to see her come back with like
Yeah.
what we have now. I mean, I know that Sana Amanat has like I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing that, but she is like people were asking her. I was at an event where she was also at, and like that was the main question everyone had for her was there was like 4 Elektra cosplayers, and they were all like, "Is Elektra coming back?" And she was obviously just saying like, "No comment, no comment, no comment."
Right.
But I do think that they know that there's a demand from Daredevil fans to like maybe see Elektra again. So I don't know.
Yeah, I think the problem they had with her is that in both seasons she was a plot device, especially in the Defenders. She was a plot device and not a character. And I think that like I'm always against in season 2 of Daredevil. It felt like she was like her plotline was her being deceitful and having secrets and stuff like that. And I feel like not ever allowing a character to have a baseline where like the entire time we're with them they are lying or like hiding something for the plot. I think it makes it hard for you to really get them as a character. But I think that if they're going to bring her back, I think that they should, at least for the start, because of all the other things that are in the air, I think that they should let her exist as just a character as opposed to like always being about her getting revived. Like just let her be a character who's alive and helping.
I was just gonna say the same thing. Is that like with Elektra, the main thing everyone is expecting is that like her death is such a big part of her lore. Yeah, that I feel like so much of it just is okay. When is she gonna die, and like how is she gonna get revived, and what's that gonna do to the character? But we've done that already now, which is awesome. So I want her to come back because I'm like now there's so many other things we could do with this actually very deeply interesting character, other than just killing her off.
I'm with you because I think that there's even parallels to her journey and Shang-Chi's sister, right? And like just where the story would exist right now, I think is a really great point. I think Jake, your point about she solely existed as a plot device, not even like she wasn't Matt's love interest because like to Hunter's point, we knew she was gonna die, right? And so we had to get to her resurrection in order for the Defenders to somewhat makes sense. I think also very similar to Finn Jones, because as you were saying, Hunter, I was nodding because for me, I think it's very. She was written terribly. I thought I was like, listen, man, like this is a stone cold assassin. Like that she in a lot of ways beats the shit out of Daredevil in the comics, and so I think that having her cast that like Marvel seemed to do like, okay, take a defender, add a love interest, sprinkle some sugar, shake. There's your drink for the
Mm-hmm.
Netflix shows, and she played a very very specific role that is no different than the actress that did no different than Deborah Ann Wall in The Punisher, right? In terms of being Frank's love interest, she was just written a little bit better, and no different than Joy Meacham in Iron Fist, and then Colleen Wing was written really well. I agree with you, Jake. The Marvel just has really they do a bad job of writing their women characters, and particularly the women who kick ass. Like they just have a really bad job doing of just how they write them. And so I'm hopeful that like this, you get a different shot because she's a really talented actress too. Jake, I'm glad you mentioned The Cleaning Lady. That was one of my favorite news shows that it came out. It did go off the rails a little bit, but it wasn't because of her. I don't think it was because of her. I think there was like other reasons why it went off the rails.
There's two things there. The first being, is it that they write women bad, or is it that they write these love interests bad? Like when you're not the person like Jessica Jones to me is deep layered, like really.
Yeah,
But
that's what I was
it's
gonna go
her.
next.
Yeah, it's her show, and that's why we all love Jessica Jones. It's like we got to live in that. Anybody that's just like there to be a love interest in these shows, it's not enough time, and they're normally not that interesting. Now, the second part is with us talking about these characters coming back for Daredevil, none of the shit we just said is going to happen. They ain't got time for none of that. Like, it's going to be Elektra showing up in a costume and stabbing motherfuckers with size. It's going to be Danny Rand iron fisting a motherfucker through the goddamn chest. And honestly, that's what I'm here for. That's all they got time for. I'm not here. If like when you cut it to 8 episodes, we're back to just like show up with no origin story. Give us like a couple of lines of dialogue about where you been or some shit, and then get the fucking killing people, dog. We're street level now, but this ain't Mediterranean Avenue anymore. We're in Marvin's Garden, and everybody's powers has increased a little bit, and it's just about looking cool and doing cool shit, except for the main guy who will get some pathos. But everybody else is just a cool one-liner and a fucking like kick.
I also think that like even if Elektra came back, I don't think we're gonna get everybody that everyone thinks we're gonna get in the next season. Like I think that if we're talking Elektra coming back, that's like season 3 earliest.
Yeah.
And I know that they want to make like a new season every year, like if they keep getting renewed. I know that one of the producers has already talked about the fact that he wants to take another stab at the hand stuff in season 3 if they get a chance, but like the right way. So like I think that if anything, we might get hints about Elektra or like references towards Elektra to like appease the people, but I don't think we're going to see Elektra within the next like year or two. We might not even see her again until after Doomsday.
I mean, with all the things I've
and
said,
that's okay.
With all the things I've said about there being sex in the MCU, I'm excited to hear that they're going to try some hand stuff in season 3. But
first base.
Yeah,
we are 2 for 2 on first base references today, guys. Check us out. Who needs AC? AC would have just stymied this conversation.
Exactly. He wouldn't. Because I abuse my position as hosting it, where I'll sometimes use it to interrupt with jokes, which is bad hosting. But sometimes I'm less of a point guard, more of a combo guard. Sometimes I got to throw up some shots. But Jessica Jones season 1 for me was my favorite of the Marvel shows. I think. Mostly because the villain, I think that mind control villains are my favorite villain. There's just something about that tickles. Like I think it's just so compelling to me. Also, just David Tennant is fucking incredible in it. But Jessica Jones, I felt was a really well drawn character. Like really, you get her in a lot of ways. I think that they, obviously, I think the second 2 seasons weren't as good, but like it was a very consistent character. And I think Kristen Ritter is great. I'm so excited that she's coming back. I think part of the reason why everyone could come back is because like Finn Jones, like Mike Coulter and Kristen Ritter have like stayed enough, like they're relevant, like they're not nobodies anymore, but they haven't become so successful where they can't come back and be a side character in Daredevil. But I'm really excited for her to come back. And I agree. I think that she's a character who, because like her arc was fairly complete in a lot of ways through this 3 seasons. Like,
Yeah.
I don't need her. She, I think, would function really well as just coming in, kicking some ass, and
Yeah.
being there. But yeah, so Rod, how would you feel about Jessica Jones coming back, and how would you feel like she would interact with this MCU that we have now on the street level?
I think Jessica Jones is a character we know so well that she doesn't need much. Like, she can just show up as like kind of a mean, sarcastic, like, I might as well help you, and I don't really want to help you, but I guess I'll fucking help you because that kind of thing. So I just think she'd be a great character to bounce off of. Also, like, it's really hard at this point to add characters who have their own style and sense of humor and shit. And she definitely has that deadpan delivery that's very sarcastic and cutting. And I think that's an element the show could use. And I also would like to see that character bounce off of people like the Punisher. Like, how does that character see the Punisher? Is she showing up like this fucking crazy deranged psycho, or is she showing up like, yeah, you got to kill a motherfucker? I don't know what you're doing, Matt. Like, I just want to see that stuff. So I'm very excited for whatever they do with Kristen Ritter. I honestly don't know how they could fuck that up.
Yeah, because I think that you're right by putting out her, because she definitely, her and Charlie Cox have such a great handle of the character. Yeah, Dalbin, how do you want to see her show up? Do you think that she's
Yeah.
washed her jeans in the years since? What do you think?
So a woman like that, and Caleb knows what I'm talking about. A woman like that doesn't need to wash her jeans, guys. She doesn't need to do that. She is fine just the way she is. As Rod was talking, I definitely like, and I know we talked a little about this last week about Marvel's aversion to like, like their hesitancy sometimes to try new things, man. But like, Kristen Ritter's such a good actress, and her comedic timing is great. I really like her. I would love to see her play off of other characters. Like, say, like, if you did like a continuation of Jessica Jones, but like it's her solving a case every week of like a super random superhero coming to her to hire her to be a PI. And like, imagine, like, to your point, Rod, Punisher coming into her office like, hey, like, and she's looking at him like, oh, so you killed him? That makes sense. I'm glad you did that. I would have told you to do that, or something like that. I think that there's so much potential for her, because one of the things that I really enjoyed about She-Hulk is that they took Murdoch and put him in She-Hulk's world, and they were able to write it in a way that, to me, it wasn't bad. I really enjoyed that.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm excited to see, them put Jessica Jones in this world that is bloody, that you saw, Fisk rip somebody's jaw off or whatever. And power level wise, she now fits with this stronger Kingpin, right? Because in a lot of ways, in the original Netflix run, her and Luke Cage were these overpowered people.
Yeah.
And now it's like, yo, you're just like almost everybody else that's here. But I'm excited to see her play off of other folks. I'm excited to see just, I think, Jake, you said that Charlie Cox and her and Kristen Ritter have a good handle on their characters. Luke Cage has a good handle on Jessica Jones. You know what I mean? So I'm excited to see who else gets a good handle on Jessica Jones, guys. I'm really excited for that.
Good handle with a bad headboard.
Yeah,
yes,
it's funny you mentioned She-Hulk, because I was actually thinking they would never do it because She-Hulk was so expensive, but like a great season 2 of She-Hulk would be She-Hulk opening up her own practice and Jessica Jones is like her PI. Like that, like, tell me you wouldn't watch that show.
I would 27 minutes of that. I would watch that. I would watch 20 episodes of that.
The dynamic definitely would be, She-Hulk Jennifer not wanting to put herself out there, and Jessica Jones basically being like, what the hell, what's the big deal? It's just a guy. Come on, you go out there. And she's like, oh, I don't know. Like, the dynamic would be perfect. Well, Hunter, how do you feel like obviously, Dalvin mentioned the power level, which I think is an interesting thing in relation to Daredevil, because obviously she has pretty intense superpowers. But I think that's why it's interesting to me to see her maybe integrated into other areas of the MCU, because like she makes more sense there. So how do you feel like she could be used even outside the context of a Daredevil show? Or if you want to comment on the Daredevil show, you could do that as well.
That's a great question. This is something I've been thinking about a lot, because we talk a lot about these Netflix characters and how they're gonna like interact with each other, and I feel like we're so accustomed to thinking about them existing in like their own bubble, because they kind of do exist in their own bubble, and that's like how they've been presented to us this whole time. But yeah, man, like I think all the time about if they're bringing these characters in and then they do show up in Doomsday or Secret Wars, like you see those memes online all the time where it's like they throw Daredevil into a theme park art and he's like charging Thanos full throttle and everyone's like, what is he even gonna do in this situation? And I think about that all the time where I'm like, if you take Jessica Jones and you put her on like Battle World or something in like Secret Wars, like what is she gonna do? Like, how is that gonna work? And yeah, I think I would like to see these street level characters in. I think what Dalbin said about She-Hulk kind of demonstrating how cool it can be when you take a character with like a really established aesthetic and you force them into someone else's aesthetic. Like, what does that do to the character? How does that take you as a viewer and challenge you and like what you think you know about these characters? I want to see this character who we really have mostly seen, you know, getting drunk in bars or like in whatever pier the Brooklyn Navy Yard is standing in for that week. Like, this is kind of what we've seen her in, and I'm like, I want to see what it looks like when you take her and she ends up on like the Guardians of the Galaxy ship. Like, how does Jessica Jones react to that? Not saying that they're necessarily going to go that far, but I would like to see them try it at some point. I'd like to see this character who very much is street level, or these characters who very much are street level, and I want to take them off the streets and see what it looks like when you put them in some sort of like Avengers level situation. Because I feel like they're now that they've like fully reintegrated them, it's gonna happen at some point with somebody. And characters like Jessica Jones or like Iron Fist, honestly, are the biggest candidates for something like that to happen because they are the most like they can take the punch from Thanos, maybe. So I'm curious to see what that would look like.
I pitch. She wakes up on a Guardians of the Galaxy ship, rubs her head, and says, "Either I'm on a spaceship or that wasn't whiskey."
Totally, but also like, you know, her best friend in the Netflix shows and what a lot of people have started to associate with her is Hellcat, right? Patsy.
Patty.
But like in the comics, she's besties with Carol Danvers. Like Captain Marvel is her best friend, and she ends up, you know, her and Luke Cage like are a huge part of the new Avengers in the comics. Like she does end up in these Avengers level situations historically in the original medium. And that's like one of the things through 3 seasons of the Defenders that we haven't really gotten to see her or Luke Cage like do. Is what happens when you are on an Avengers team and like the Eye of Agamotto is opening up a portal to another dimension in the sky and you guys have to stop it. Like, what does that look like for Kristen Ritter as Jessica Jones? That's kind of what I want to see.
You know, I love that because as you were talking, like I then started to think, like to your point, imagine Strange is like, all right, you know, this Earth is doomed, we gotta leave, and he takes Murdoch and these folks, like he takes Murdoch to a universe where the accident doesn't happen and he doesn't become Daredevil. Like that's some powerful character shit there, right? Like wow, like he gets to see what his life would have been like if his dad wasn't a boxer who had to throw this fight and got killed and all that. There's damn it, Hunter. Damn it, now if I don't get that, I'm going to be pissed.
we mentioned Luke Cage. Now, quick question about Luke Cage. I'm very curious. Does the fact that, nice dab, Ian, does the fact that Nick Cage took his stage last name from Luke Cage, is that allyship or is that appropriation? Because that's where it's from, by the way. That's where he got it. It's Nicholas.
No, I know that.
No, I know you know that.
Son after Superman, but
anyway, no, I always think about that. But Luke Cage, the man with unbreakable skin, played by Mike Coulter, definitely, you know, with the original series, I think I'm not the only person to say that it was at its best when Mahershala was the villain. But I think that it, you know, as memed on as it was a cool character. But I feel like personally, and Rod, I want to hear what you say about this. I felt like Luke Cage really worked best when he was bouncing off other people, because I feel like his self-seriousness needs someone else there, because like that's kind of his whole deal. So how do you feel like he'd fit in with a Daredevil show, and who would you want to see him with that he plausibly could be with?
So for Luke Cage was actually one of my favorite ones, but because it was like to me the silliest. Because to bounce off of Mike Coulter, you have to have these over the top personalities everywhere. And it was like from the fucking barber to the to the villain that was like the Jamaican villain Bushwhacker or whatever, like Bushmaster, right, yeah, buddy, man. Like I used to like laugh and smile watching that show, like, and the creator's always on Twitter talking about it. So like I don't think I was like looking too far into it to find laughs. Like they knew it was funny. And I also really liked that he was a uptight like guy. The thing that would be missing if he comes into this show is the blackness, because obviously that's that's my favorite thing about Luke Cage, is like it felt like a fucking like you were taking a Black History tour of like New York every episode. It's like, oh, you gonna go to the Benjamin Banneker Library or whatever? It's like, what? like, we gotta stop by the Malcolm X Student Center real quick. It's like, all right, we get it. But like, I like that stuff, made me laugh and was so fun. And I don't know that that's even possible to be replicated in here. So I think what we will get is Mike Coulter bouncing off of the other personalities in this crew. Probably some awkward Kristen Ritter stuff. And if I could pick somebody for him to show up with, as you brought up, maybe Misty Knight or somebody. Like if you could pick somebody to just like, hey, come through with them to make them more interesting, that's it. But once again, not enough episodes. I expect him just to be a big brute punching through walls, and I'm okay with that. He never really was like that charismatic to me.
I will jump in really quick to say, I actually feel like there's a semi potentially kind of based on how the Luke Cage show ended, and the sort of like comic storyline they're angling at in the Daredevil show. And something I wouldn't hate to see is like a thing that they do in this era in the comics that they're like adapting is that Luke Cage, as it seems Rod maybe knows, runs for mayor of New York City against Fisk, because they realize like if we're gonna take him down, Matt's very much like the system will surpass all evils. He goes through his cycles, but the Luke Cage show ended with him sort of being like, okay, well, I have to become the new like kingpin of Harlem in order to stop, like kind of doing the same thing, but for Harlem. And then we never really get to see what he does after that or like how that affects his character, which I think was actually a really interesting like potential path for that character to go down, especially with how uptight he normally is and him maybe having to like do some morally dubious things.
And also when he takes that office from Fisk, the superhero ban is still in place and he's responsible for enforcing it.
Yeah.
So like he is that stick in the mud, like rules guy, and all the heroes that used to be his buddies are like, what the fuck, bro? You know what it is out here on these streets.
Yeah, and if the idea too of like these Disney Plus, like bringing the Netflix characters back to this, is to take these characters and show them on a grander scale and like amplify these stories that they were already telling. It's like you were already going to kind of tell that story with Luke anyway, and what better way to amplify it and like integrate him into this? And I can totally see a world where like Jessica shows up and they realize during this like war against Fisk that they need their own like political candidate, and have Jessica be like, I know a guy, and like. Because again, like he shows up in that Jessica Jones season 3 finale too in this role to kind of give her a pep talk. So we know that relationship like still exists. So I've always felt like that's like the natural way to kind of bring Luke back into the fold and see what he's doing. Plus, I would pay really good money to see a Mike Coulter, Vincent D'Onofrio mayoral debate in character.
It's I mean, he'd be glad to run against Fisk because, like, his one downside would be having a felony conviction. But it's like, when you're running against Fisk, it's like, well, shit. Dalbin, what about you? How do you feel about Luke Cage coming back? What would you like to see him? Obviously, you mentioned not being so hot on Mike Coulter, but what would you like to see?
Yeah, but I'm with friends, so I'm assuming all is good in the world, and we have to make some compromises, I guess, and Mike Coulter is the one that I'll make. But I also loved Luke Cage season 1. Season 2 was a little uneven, but I also
want to see Mariah Stokes fire burn. You ain't want to see that. What?
That's really what he was talking like too. Like that's the thing.
It was so really bad. Those accents were so bad, but goddamn, I love that goddamn show.
So Cool Runnings growing up had probably some of the worst Jamaican accents I had ever heard until Luke Cage season 2. Like I was like, what is happening here? But I think, but I also try really hard to not hold any of the like season 2 of Luke Cage. Although season 2 of Iron Fist I think is better than season 1 by leaps and bounds. But I really try not to hold those against them because Marvel was not doing right by our guys. But
I mean, it was for all intents and purposes, it was not the same company. So it's like it's not even like
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Luke Cage suddenly became a little bit more, it went. Luke Cage went from being a little bit Barack to a little bit more Tim Scott, if you know what I mean, and it was a little weird. It was a little weird. But I would love him to run for mayor. Like him running for mayor would be such a cool kind of idea because again, like to Hunter's point and to your point, Rod, it happens in the comics, so there's already there's already that built in, that kind of goodwill. But also we talked about this a little bit about the Illuminati last week. There's only one right answer when you're at that table, and it's to walk away, to not be the person that abuses the power and goes after these superheroes. And Luke Cage was an asshole. Like he rebranded the Thunderbolts in that in that run where he was mayor as well, and started using them to started using them to impose some of this stuff. Like there is so much potential there, and I think it ties in really well to the street level heroes in Marvel. I think what you've always seen is these kind of through lines of absolute power corrupts absolutely. I think that's what you've seen. You saw when Peter ended up turning, Breaking Bad or whatever. And so Luke Cage running against Fist to be the anti Kingpin, only to then really be, end up being as bad as him. I think there's really good potential there. And we've seen Mike Coulter play the husband of a president, right? Like, so this should be easy for him. He knows what to do, and he can honor his inner Tim Scott by doing this. So I think go on, Mike Coulter, be the mayor of New York.
Exactly. And so then with the Netflix shows, we finally had come to the Punisher, who I think was, obviously really awesome to see in Daredevil. I think for me, like the most exciting thing about him in the MCU, and I think why he of all the characters is the one I think could be spread the most around, is that like no disrespect at all to the rest of the actors, but in terms of like star power, John Bernthal is just like a tier above. And obviously they didn't. I mean, they probably had ideas maybe when they originally cast him, but like that's not. They didn't know that they had that on their hands. And so obviously he has like the Disney Plus presentation coming up that he's going to be doing. But yeah, I also know the rumors that he's going to be involved in the next Spider-Man movie. Hunter, where do you want to see the Punisher next, and how where can he be used? Because he's clearly someone that they want to use, and I think is someone who's really interested in being used.
I mean, the thing about the Punisher is for a character whose whole thing is like, I shoot guns, he's been used in like the craziest of ways throughout time. Like, they have managed to fit that guy into every corner of the Marvel universe in like some way, shape, or form. I mean, the dude was like Cosmic Ghost Rider for a bit in the like that. That's insane to me that they were able to do that. He got War Machine armor for a little bit. So I think in terms of where
did you read when he got the fucking life guns? Like it was they've done freaky shit with Frank.
Right, and they really have, and like there's no shortage of ways. I think that weirdly enough, of the Netflix characters, he's the most open book that really could just be thrown like anywhere and made to work. I mean, even the end of Daredevil Born Again, I think, is the most like tied to a plot thread that he's been. But like every other season of the shows that he's been in, it ends with just like, okay, all of his like threads are tied, and now we can just do whatever we want with him next time. I would love to see him in a Spider-Man movie, selfishly as a Spider-Man fan, and a John Bernthal fan. The character debuted as a Spider-Man villain, so it would be cool to like use him as something to tie Peter to like the more street level area. But like, again, I wouldn't even be that upset if he showed up in an Avengers movie and Riri Williams was like, "Yo, I got like an extra armor lying around. Like, you wanna take it for a spin?" I don't know, man. I listen. Anywhere they want to show me John Bernthal, I will watch. It doesn't matter what project it's in. It doesn't matter how crazy the concept seems. If you have John Bernthal giving me a monologue on a screen, big or small, I will go see it.
That's true.
And that's just the case. So, yeah, I think they could use him anywhere, and I'd watch him anywhere. But Spider-Man would be sick. I would love that.
I can't hear you, Jake.
Oh, Jake, your mic off.
I did the classic thing where while I'm producing the show, I muted myself. Any thoughts on the Punisher? Where do you want to see him? How do you think he'd be used? Because yeah, I think that I would not be surprised if he shows up in places that it doesn't really make sense for him to be.
Who's that for?
I
Dalvin?
Oh, for Rod. See, the thing is, I said Rod when I was muted, and I didn't repeat it when I unmuted
Oh,
myself.
okay. Well,
either go ahead, Rod. Yep, I'll
no,
go after
Dalvin, you
you.
go first. You go first. You got it, bro. Go
Yep.
ahead.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. No. I would. God, man, you guys are spot on. I think he is probably one of the easiest characters to put anywhere. Just
Yeah.
super easy. Like my initial thought when you asked Hunter, I was like, man, just have him pop up in the new Avengers sequel that's going to take the spot that Doomsday vacated, and have him kill U.S. Agent. Have him take one bullet at him. Like just let him lay him out, right? Like I think that there is so much potential for him to be a dude that's just like, listen, I don't like any of you fake heroes. I don't like any of you. And Hunter's point about the monologue, I think John Bernthal has the best monologue in all of the MCU. When he ties up Daredevil in season 2 of Daredevil on top of the roof, you hit them and they stay down. I hit them and they get back up. That I think is the best monologue that's ever been delivered in the MCU. Go ahead,
Yeah,
Hunter.
and to that point, just like a very quick thing too. One of my all-time favorite Punisher moments in the comics actually is in the Civil War like comic book, and it's after he saves Spider-Man in the tunnels, and then he like meets up with Captain America, right? And he's like idolizes Steve Rogers. He's like a hero to him, and him coming face to face with Captain America, kind of trying to like salute him in his own way, and Steve Rogers telling him to his face like, "I do not respect you or what you do." Was such a crazy good moment that I would love to see some I know Steve Rogers is gone, but some version of that, even with like another character, I think would be like
Anthony Mackie.
Anthony Mackie, salute the black cap.
Right.
Anthony Mackie telling him that Steve would have hated him.
Yeah.
That could work. Maybe that's
work.
the secret Anthony Mackie's been holding. Maybe that's the secret. Steve would have hated all of you. Yeah, but no, I think Bernthal's he's such a talented actor, man. Like he's just Jake, you're right. And Jake and I have talked about this before, like about just the actors, right? The actors in the MCU. Bernthal is a cut above, like the folks on the Netflix shows. He's just a cut above them, and that's not a knock on any of them. Like I think
he's a movie star.
Bernthal, he's a movie star, right? Like he's a star.
Yeah, you put him next to Ben Affleck and say he's the co-star of the movie, and you're like, yeah, these are two movie stars next to each other.
Yeah,
exactly. You put Anthony Mackie in a movie next to Harrison Ford, and you're like, this is Harrison Ford's movie. You know what I mean? Like that's kind of what you run into.
Facts.
But I think Punisher has a lot of. There's a lot of bandwidth for him. Like I'm telling you, having him be the dude that drops U.S. Agent, you don't even need to see him again in the movie. Just him perched on a ledge, taking out U.S. Agent, and then he's gone for the rest of the movie. That could work. I also I know the rumors about Spider-Man 4, and maybe they go the little Hulkish or whatever and all that jazz. Bernthal fits there too as the guy that's brought in to take down the Hulk after he's rampaging through New York. I think that could work really, really well too, because his creed has been the same. Like he doesn't like vigilantes, you know what I mean? Because they're all half measures. Like he doesn't deal with that. And I think there's really a lot of good potential for that. And Bernthal would just kill it. I'd love to see Bernthal in Avengers Doomsday.
For me, they kind of softened the Punisher up when they had him in Daredevil, but I liked it.
Yeah.
Like he was really good with Matt, and you could feel that love interest triangle thing like just dripping off the page. But I actually don't want to see him with the Avengers. I like him being street level. I like him being a problem that like Captain America wouldn't even really think about. Like, there's something about that, like the level of people he kills, because you got to keep him killing people that don't really matter, which is like what's dope about the Punisher. Like, is to me, it's not when he kills like shoots the Hulk that it's like that's cool as a moment because it was like a mystery of like who did this or what. I want to be like, I know he gonna kill this motherfucker. Like when they introduced Barracuda in the comics, and you're like, I cannot wait for Frank to fucking kill you, dude. You are a piece of shit. And like everybody he kills need to be worse than him. And it's cool when he's with other heroes, but I feel like it would just be another iteration of Daredevil when he's with another hero. And we've done that before, and I don't think you can get better than him and Charlie Cox. Like that, those scenes are iconic, and just seeing Peter Parker do the same, like, come on, don't kill, is not gonna hit for me. But that being said, what I would like to see him again is I would like to see him in the Disney Plus like special. And I think it should be a Christmas special. and I think it should be Die Hard level. Like it should be like that. Like if you give me like a Punisher spinoff hour or movie or something, and it's him fucking up Kingpin's men or something like that, with a bunch of homages to that type of Impossible White Man action series, I'm all there for that. So I would love to see him get something where he's the main guy, because I think John Bernthal is the main guy, and that character's such a different type of morality that I'm not that interested in, like, oh, I wonder what so and so thinks about it. I'm like, nah, I actually don't give a fuck, and he wouldn't either. Let's just kill some motherfuckers.
Yeah, the thing about him is he just really is driven by, like, he hates criminals, and obviously you can make that he hates other superheroes, but, like, I think that I'm with you, Rod, to some extent, when I do just like him mowing down some people, like, these people don't know what they're in for. But yeah, the thing is, like, you really, if you want to, you really can justify him being everywhere, because he is just motivated by animus towards anyone who he doesn't think are, like, being just. So, like, you can throw him in anywhere. It's like, why is he here? Because someone was committing crimes and it made him mad, you know?
And he's played by John Bernthal, meaning, like, there's nowhere I won't watch him. Like, so there's you can't pitch me a bad Punisher idea, because I'm gonna watch him in everything. I'd watch She-Hulk defend him in court. I'd watch fucking, like, I'd watch anything if John Bernthal shows up. If he could be in Guardians of fucking Galaxy for all I know, and I'd be like,
I was gonna say that.
You know what I mean? Yeah. Like him and Rocket would get along well, dude. It's not really, like, I'm not a stickler about the idea, but, like, if I was to watch something with John Bernthal, I would like him to be the main character, and then just, oh man, it would be so dope if they introduced, like, Barracuda or somebody, and he was just fucking them up. Oh.
That'd be great. And so then there's also street level characters that are not from the Netflix shows. Obviously, this is like how do you define it? But I think someone who's definitely street level, even though she is going to be in the Young Avengers. So, like, we'll also talk about her there. But we have Kate Bishop, who, is a street level character as of now. I think that she's going to be more than that going forward, just because she has the mantle of Hawkeye. She's Haley Steinfeld. But are there any street level stories you want to see told with her? Or with the original Hawkeye, starting with you, Hunter?
Yeah, I think I think that we should already have a season 2 of Hawkeye. I think that there's they've already kind of mentioned it, right? Like, the Young Avengers seem to be also sort of like a West Coast Avengers situation in the MCU. In Daredevil Born Again, they mentioned that Kamala's dad mentions that she is in California. Yeah, I mean, there's the storyline in the comics that directly follows up the storyline they adapted for the TV show. I think it's great, and I would love to see that be a second season of Hawkeye. I think that, I mean, New York is cool, but I think that Kate Bishop, a character like her, is a really good outlet for a street level story that's not in New York City. I don't think all of it has to be in New York City. I think the idea of having her go to California and have a street level story that way is also very interesting. Like, what does a street level hero in LA look like? I don't know if we've actually seen that in the MCU, unless I'm forgetting something. No. I think it's cool. She's kind of like an international street level hero, which I think is really fun, and I'd like to see her used that way. And I know Clint kind of retires like every project that he's in, but I think there are ways to kind of keep him around as a mentor. I know forever ago there were theories of, like, instead of being his older brother, what if they introduced Barney as, like, his long lost younger brother, who's, like, a little bit more accurate to, like, the Hawkeye, like the Clint that we know in the comics. Like, I don't hate that idea either. And having him and Kate paired up, it's like, what happens when Kate bumps into Clint's, like, dysfunctional younger brother, who's, like, kind of morally ambiguous. He has moral ambiguity. Like, what is that like? I think that would be really interesting. So I would love. We're gonna see more Kate Bishop. I want to see as much of the Queen of Buffalo as I can in my MCU. I want to see that follow up to Hawkeye. And I know that they said that Marvel had been interested at one point. Jeremy Renner claims that they, like, lowballed him, and so he said no, and that's why season 2 never happened. I want more Kate Bishop. I want more
Mhm.
Hawkeye. I love Hawkeye. I love those comics. I think there's a lot more that run can give to the MCU, and I think that there's like a really natural way to do it, and they should probably just do it.
Rod?
Yeah, pretty much everything Hunter said. Like yeah,
Yeah.
it's that simple.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, maybe that's where you do the Christmas special, and then you can have them all together
Yeah.
or something.
Dalbin?
Yeah. Oh, Hawkeye being the Christmas show. The Christmas the every year just being the Christmas show, I think it worked really well. You know who else is dying to see more Kate Bishop is Michael B. Jordan after Sinners. He's dying to see more Kate Bishop. And so, as you know, he's Killmonger, guys. Like, you have to honor the
Yeah.
Black Panther. He was he was one of the last
Mhm.
Black Panthers. I think I would listen, man. I love my Nubian queen, Haley Steinfeld. I think that I would watch her in any goddamn thing. Okay, I would watch her in anything. And I did love the idea that they were toying with about it being kind of like the Raid, where they're in one location, right, and like trick shots there, like trying to get. I loved. I was like, yeah, that's gonna be sick. But Jeremy Renner, I'll be honest. After I almost died in a snowmobile accident, I wouldn't let you lowball me either, buddy.
Yeah.
Like you're not lowballing me ever again. Like, I am a million gets me in the door. Unlike our pal Chris Evans, Jake, who can't even go up to Massachusetts to do fucking voiceovers. But yeah, I think also with Kate Bishop and Hunter, you mentioned no street level heroes in LA. We are about to get our main man Candyman out on the West Coast, and maybe
That's
that'll
true.
give
I
us an
forgot about
inkling
that.
into so
Yeah.
maybe that'll give us an inkling as to what a street level hero looks like in LA a little bit. But I love Kate Bishop, man. The Hawkeye run and the Hawkeye show, the comics are great. The show was really one of Marvel's best. I thought they hit that shit out of the park. It was really, really well done. And I think it was really well done because, like, you had Haley, who played Kate Bishop, very much with similarities to Spider-Man without some of the annoyance, like in the reverence of how he reveres Iron Man in the MCU. Because she could tell, like, she's like, dude, like, you're my hero, and then he's kind of a loser and doesn't want anything to do with her. She's like, well, fuck you. And so, like, I think there's so much potential there, but I'd sign up for that. Yes, Hawkeye 2, Sinners, coming to Disney Plus. I'm all for it. I'm all
Hawkeye
for
Also,
it.
2,
like,
California.
wonder if we could see these characters in some sort of Young Avengers ish, like sooner rather than later. Like
It's gotta be
Ironheart comes out. Yeah, well, actually, yeah, everything's later rather than later at this point. But yeah, some of these characters, like, these actors haven't all blown up, so you still could bring back, Patriot and some of these other characters. And so maybe you put them together in something sooner, rather than just keep doing these one off. Maybe Kate gets the crew together, and that's where we start with this Young Avengers, and now we've kind of solved a lot of problems at the same time.
I mean, I do feel like that's what they're angling towards. It almost feels like they don't know when to do it.
Yeah,
'Cause
Yeah.
exactly.
they have all these characters they started introducing, and some of them have been in like one project and not shown up for multiple years.
Yeah.
And it's sort of like with the slate we have, that sort of thing, unless it happens within one of the other Avengers movies, in which case, again, it's just one plot line out of like a million plot lines that might
Right.
not get its due. It's like it probably wouldn't happen for another couple years, and by then, I mean, like, Haley Steinfeld is going to be.
Yep.
I mean, how old is she now? She's going to be in like her mid 30s.
Yeah, she's not. Yeah, exactly. It's. I think that they're really.
I think they thought that, like, the Disney Plus shows would be like a pipeline to the movie theaters, and it's just not panning out for them that way. Where, like, because they are trying, like they did that with Miss Marvel. If you look, even this Captain America movie is essentially like we took the Disney Plus story and tried to turn it into a movie, and it's not boding well that these aren't working out. Even I mean, honestly, Thunderbolts is kind of like that. So
Yeah.
it's just like I worry about the Young Avengers, just because if they're looking at that trend, they may be like, we got to scrap this whole thing.
I think
wonder
really
if the way they. I was gonna say, I wonder real quick if the way that they look at it is, because I agree with you, Rod. Although I'm thinking back to our conversation last week about like the
Mm.
Marvels really like was one of Marvel's better movies, very much a throwback to
Yeah.
like Phase One, and like they kind of dropped the ball a little bit, right?
Mhm.
And but like when I think to Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness, like that WandaVision was a prerequisite for that, and that did really well. I think that made like what, like
Mhm.
700 million or something
Yeah.
like that. But it made that because it was a multiverse film, right? And
Right.
so I wonder if that's the thing. I wonder if and again, the multiverse is about to end with this soft reboot or whatever it ends up
Yeah.
being happening. But I wonder if they're going to look back and say we should have used Disney Plus as a vessel for the multiverse, not for these
Mm.
standalone stories, right? That like kind
Yeah.
of have to stand on their own, but more should we have used it to prepare folks for the
Yeah.
multiverse?
Right.
Because those are the ones that you've seen like Deadpool and Wolverine, it might as well be Loki season 3. Like it might as well be that. Like it's connected
Right.
to that so well. So that's something that I do wonder if they're going to take away from this little hiccup that they've hit.
Mm.
Yeah, I think a couple things. One, I think they hamstrung themselves a little bit by basically having 2 Avengers movies on the calendar where like everything else has to either come after that or like be a setup to that. But I do think that, from what I understand, that there will be like a Young Avengers team in the 2 Avengers movies, and so I
Yeah.
hope that if they are well liked, then afterwards we can get something, even if they're not called the Young Avengers, because yeah, it will be like the early
Mhm.
Champion.
30s Avengers. And then finally, wrapping up on like characters that are fairly strictly street level, I do wonder, and I really have no idea. Will we ever see Echo again? Anyone
Right.
can take this.
I I would like to. I mean, right now signs are pointing to like I don't know where the hell she'd show up
Yeah.
unless
Right.
they want to like reintegrate her into like again, she'd be another one where it's like I guess in the comics she's a Daredevil character, she's deeply tied to Fisk. Like she might come out of the woodworks when she sees he's been
Mm-hmm.
elected mayor. I mean, his first idea of I'm going to run for mayor happens at the end of Echo.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like I guess you could tie those things together, where she just kind of shows up,
Mhm.
and Matt's like, "Oh, I remember you from that one fight." And
Mm-hmm.
he also references in Born Again. He knows that she shot him in the face.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess that like she gets the Born Again reference. So if it were to happen anywhere, I feel like it would have to be a future season of
Yeah.
Daredevil where she joins this like army against Fisk. But even then, it's like again, that's just kind of another thing amongst
Yeah.
a lot of plot lines that were set up in the first season. So it's like I don't know, man.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, I think we're more likely to see her again than like Hercules, but
Yeah. That's a pod that AC9 needs to plan out. The power
Yeah.
ranking characters we're least likely to see again, but we'll talk about that later. Yeah, I would like to see her again if it's organic. I feel bad because like I feel that of all the characters that got a bum rap from Marvel, she's like number 1 at the moment. I mean, in terms of characters that are their own thing, like the choice to, I mean, and they're good repeating with Ironheart. Look at that. But yeah, Dalbin and Rod, any thoughts on where you like see Echo? I mean, thankfully, I feel like she did have a good end to her story in terms of the fist stuff. So, like, I don't feel like
Right.
she currently doesn't have unfinished business, and you can bring her back. Alako Cox is fairly young, so like, it's not a thing that like is an immediate worry. But yeah,
Mhm.
is there anything you'd like to see from her or anything like that?
Well, for me, I mean, I like to see her show up in Daredevil, but yeah, much like Hunter said, it wouldn't be like a huge continuation of her story, just kind of like showing up like the rest of the gang. So I think I would like to see her like there. But the other thing that we didn't really get to talk about, but I think what's missing from a lot of this is there's no real street level villains. Like there's
That's what
Fisk.
that's what I was getting to last.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Well, yeah. They
Yeah,
just
so
need
let's
more of
transition
that.
to that. Let's transition to that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, what street level villains do you guys want to see? Because I absolutely agree that a problem that they have is that they throw street level characters at non street level villains.
Mhm.
And when they do have street level villains, they're less compelling. So yeah,
Yes.
what are some street level villains you guys want to see from the comics, from other media, maybe ones we've seen before?
I think they should go with all the like mob related ones, like Dapper Dan and fucking,
thank you.
yeah, some of those like under like the henchman level guys who are like drawn weird and funny, but also like charismatic enough that just looking at them makes them interesting. Because I obviously don't have a lot of time for these villains, and I think it'd be an easy swap out because like Fisk henchmen were just underutilized and not that big of a deal. They were like dumb bro cops. And then the one dude that was in the Daredevil comics that was interesting, fuck, I forget his name now, but he was not interested in the show. Like he was just like the main bad henchman that was like, I'm a dirty cop. It was like, fuck, dude, you were so much better in the comics. So yeah, I would just like to see them introduce like, you know, those characters. And also like there's a shit ton of Spider-Man characters that are just
Yes.
not being used. And
Yeah.
Yes.
you don't gotta go
Dude.
like the Stilt Man, but like Tombstone could be in here or something. Like you could give us
Tombstone,
Tombstone
something.
is gonna
Hammerhead.
be. It looks like Tombstone's
Tombstone,
probably gonna be in 4.
Hammerhead, Silvermane. Dude,
Yeah.
throw Hobgoblin in there. Like,
Chameleon.
he's
Yeah.
part of the gang
If you
war.
if you did Chameleon, like him going around, like, and again, like you have like Chameleon could really lead to like a street level paranoia kind of thing
Right.
going, right? Like I think there's a lot
Yeah.
of potential there. Hammerhead is a good one. The Enforcers are another one. Sin Eater is another one. There's like just take all of Spider-Man's villains. Like Spider-Man
That
has
was
so
crazy.
many that are never going to be in any of the movies.
Mhm.
Right, and if you're doing this like Disney Plus TV shows too, then I feel like that. I mean, I don't know how the rights situation works with all these characters, and I know that's like a big
Right.
part of it. Is that like a lot of Marvel's best street level villains are Spider-Man characters
Right.
who is a street level hero more so in the comics, and it's like I don't know if you can just pull like Silvermane or Tombstone or Hammerhead.
Right.
And
I think you can for TV because I know that the rule with Wilson
Oh,
Fisk
yeah.
is, and this is very
Right.
unfortunate at the moment. Wilson Fisk cannot appear in an MCU movie.
Right.
Sony has the movie rights for him, but I think
And
TV is pretty
Like
fun.
imagine if fucking Hobgoblin showed up. That's fucking
Dude, it would be
epic.
sick. It would be sick, and I think about this all the time. And I think that one of the reasons that the end of Born Again got me so excited, where there's this idea of like, okay, Fisk is like mayor now, and like the streets are starting to get kind of messy again, is because I think if you really dive into this idea of like, okay, there's all this multiverse stuff happening, and that's what everyone else is dealing with. But then these street level characters, like the thing they're dealing with is that there's about to be this huge like gang war that erupts in New York City. And I know I've talked about this a million times, but I think it's such a good way to like connect all of these characters who are based in New York, because if there's like a gang war happening in New York, then they all kind of like have to get involved. Like Kingpin is mayor, if you have Luke Cage is like running against him, and like it forces these characters to kind of like acknowledge that this is happening. And then you have this like street level Spider-Man movie, hopefully, maybe, I mean, maybe not, I don't know, but like hypothetically speaking, then it's like, okay, cool, now you can pull him into this on like a movie scale where you can get a character like Mr. Negative, who's like kind of a street level villain with like big powers, right? Or something like that. And it's such a great reason to include so many characters and villains who maybe like have been hard to incorporate in other stories, but now you can all put them in this gang war thing, because it's like, okay, Fisk is mayor, but then now there's like these other guys vying for powers in this like vacuum that he's left in this like certain area, and then you can bring in like Mr. Negative and Silvermane and Tombstone. And like one of the interesting things about a character like Hammerhead is he starts out as a memorable henchman, but then he evolves into this character who also wants to lead his own gang, as is like the case with many gang related things, like The Sopranos and whatever. But I think that it just kind of opens this door to all of these stories that would suddenly make a lot more sense, and that you could spread throughout all of these different projects with all of these different like overlapping characters. And then it doesn't have to just be Fisk is the Kingpin, and then it's like it's Fisk. Like, sure, have Fisk be the umbrella villain, whatever. But there's all of these other like gang related characters who are so much more interesting than Henchman number 3 that you could use in so many different projects. And like
I said, Dapper Dan is Fancy Dan, and he was part of. I just looked it up. He was part of the Enforcers, and it had Ox in there. It had Montana. Like once again, they look weird. So automatically you got people showing up in like trench coats and fucking cowboy hats and shit. You don't need to give them like some crazy backstory or whatever. It's just like, oh, cool, guys to punch, and here comes the Defenders versus the fucking Enforcers. And
so I will say the thing I'm worried about though is that I feel like they do need to have some interesting powers in some of their villains, because I do feel like with Hawkeye, for example, the Trenchcoat Mafia really left a lot wanting for me. That there's no
agreed
that like it doesn't. If these street level heroes, especially even ones that don't have like literal powers, like the Daredevils of the world, if they're just going against another criminal, unless that criminal is as megamaniacal as Fisk, I don't really worry about them losing. You know what I mean? Like
But
I
they do
feel like
got powers though. Like
that's
these
true.
aren't just guys. They do
Yeah.
got powers. So
They
like
do. Even
that would
Silvermane,
be
like,
cool.
yeah, even Silvermane is like you look at him and you're like, oh, he's just another like mob boss. But then his whole thing is that he has this like grand plan to, like, he's really old is his whole
Yeah.
thing, and he doesn't want to die, so he comes up with this grand plan to like replace his body, like basically become a cyborg, like put his human head on a robot body and then just live forever as this like ultimate gang lord. And doing something like that where it's like, okay,
Yeah,
cool.
that's cool.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
we have Vision Quest coming out. What if like this gang leader got his hands on some like Ultron tech, and then he's like, I'm gonna make myself Ultron the mob boss, and then
Mhm.
like what do the defenders do now? Like that would be a very interesting thing to me.
Dalbin, any thoughts on which characters you'd like to see?
Yeah, no, I mean the Enforcer, Sin Eater, Chameleon. I think Spider-Man has just a treasure trove of villains that are just never gonna make it to whatever the hell Sony's got planned.
Whoa,
or
whoa, whoa, whoa.
whatever.
Whoa. Chameleon is Kraven the Hunter's brother in the Kraven the Hunter movie. Let's not be ridiculous.
That's true.
Dude, I
And
mean,
he's
Shocker
saying-
and Scorpion are just
Yeah.
out there.
He
so-
he uses power exactly once at the end of the movie.
Mhm.
Yes.
We
But
still- we still have-
I think that could work. I think also like if you're gonna, because again, you're doing this without using your best street level hero in Spider-Man.
Right.
So you have to give us some stakes for some of this on the ground stuff. You got to give us some stakes, and I agree with Hunter. It can't just be Fisk. It can't just
Right.
be Kingpin. Like it cannot just be Kingpin, because ultimately that story, like at some point, you're just like, okay,
Also,
All
you
right,
could like
Chin
kill
Gigante.
Danny Rand. Like that's a great
Yeah.
opportunity to kill some people
And
out. We
drive
named
and
so many people.
You could kill Echo. You could kill
Yeah.
Echo. Like also because that's also the other part too of the street
Kill
level
Echo.
heroes.
Yeah,
You
I-
kill
I-
I'm sorry.
Echo.
I'm sorry to
You
echo.
could.
I'm sorry.
Sorry,
Don't
off
hit
the board.
Echo.
But I think what you see is that some of these people, their story has to end. Like you're not you are not going to be a vigilante till you're 90, right? Like
Yeah.
it's not going to happen. Like there is an expiration date on you, right? And so like some of the dope TVs from other shows, which I think like, and we talked about this a little bit whenever we've been on. I think Marvel works really well when it's something enveloped by superheroes, right? So
Mhm.
like
Yeah.
Captain America: Winter Soldier was a political thriller enveloped in Marvel, right? So that's what it was, right? When you try to just center the heroes, I think you start to lose some folks a little bit because they're like, okay, like why am I buying into this other than you fly and you hit shit? And I'm with Rod. The defenders should just be hitting shit. Like I'm just going in
Yeah.
there fucking people up.
Mhm.
But the other stuff, like you have to envelope it in a story. You have to envelope it in a really good story, and you have to kill some people in order for that to happen. Echo, you
Yeah.
can go. Danny Rand, you can go.
Mhm.
Luke Cage, after you become mayor, maybe somebody takes you out. You can go. Like drive home that these guys, like none of that, they're not gonna make it. A lot
Like
of these
even
people
if you
aren't gonna
just
make
put
it.
them, lay them up in a hospital or something, like you still
Yeah.
like something that raises the stakes of like, yo, this shit is fucking serious this time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think it's a shame that like Ironheart seems to be already getting swept under the rug, because I think that a lot of the characters that show is going to introduce, like the Hood is a really interesting
Yeah.
street level villain. Like the
Yeah.
idea of this like gang leader guy who has like mystic powers he gets from like boots and a cape he took off a demon, or however they're going to play it, right? Like that's a really interesting character with a decent amount of power who like in the comics was once able to successfully collect all of the Infinity Stones. Like this was like he has a lot of potential, but I fear that he's going to show up in Ironheart and then be killed off or like never seen again afterwards, when there's really a lot of cool stuff you could do with that guy.
Yeah. So any other characters you guys think will be street level? Obviously,
Agatha.
like you can make
Obviously,
Agatha.
Agatha.
Yeah. But you can make arguments for some of the Thunderbolts, I guess, but like
Justin
they're not
Hammer.
really anymore.
Justin Hammer. Justin
Right,
Hammer
yeah.
being the guy
You guys
that
count-
provides the weapons to some of these gangs. There's again potential there.
One character that a lot of people I like loop in with the street level heroes, but I feel like could be debated is Moon Knight.
Yeah.
Who we also don't know like when, because like he is obviously linked to much grander things, but ultimately like power set wise and the way he functions is very kind of like a Batman-y, right? Like that's like his thing. Like he's kind of street level. So a lot of people, when like a lot of fan edits I see of like Daredevil's like street level Avengers include Moon Knight. And I
mean,
feel like that,
I would like to see him at some point again. I don't think Oscar Isaac's getting off the couch to guest star
No,
in Daredevil season 2,
no,
nor would
I
he.
don't think so either.
Nor
I think
should
he'd
he. I
have to
thought it
be.
was yeah.
Yeah, he'd have to be a lead. He'd have to be a lead again.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I like to sometimes play. I have to put on two hats, being the host of an MCU show, but also like playing the person's agent. It's like, no, don't answer that call, Oscar.
Yeah.
But
Well, but Charlie Cox would get off the couch to be a guest star on Moon Knight season 2. You know what I'm saying?
oh,
Like Charlie Cox
absolutely,
will do that.
absolutely,
Yeah. So that's I think how you do it. I think that's how you
Yeah.
accomplish that. I'm with
Yeah.
you. Yeah. Oscar Isaac's gonna look at one call. You want me to be there for 6 minutes?
yeah.
And
And
that's
it's like I have
it?
to be in Atlanta for 3 weeks, and I can't tell anyone where I'm going. Yeah. Yeah, any other characters you guys want to talk about? Obviously, this all somewhat relates to Spider-Man, because Spider-Man is like the street level villain, but we've already talked about Spider-Man, and there's so much more going on with Spider-Man. And like, I don't know, it feels like them saying that Spider-Man 4 is gonna be a more street level movie is something that I like to hear, but it's also very much in I'll believe it when I see it territory. Because there are so many cooks in the kitchen that are incentivized to not make it a street level story. I hope it is, but I'm not gonna let myself be too excited about that,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, they already have so many street level people like as a potential like in the pot already that I'm almost wary about the idea of like throwing more in until we see the payoff of what's there.
Right.
Yeah.
So for me, my mind has very much been focused on like, okay, these characters that do exist and either have stories that are not finished or have stories that are finished, but it feels like there's a lot more you could do with this character. Like my mind has been so focused on that I'm like not even thinking about
Yeah.
who else they could add.
Yeah,
Yeah,
there's
I
a lot up
agree.
in the air. But I think that I'm excited to see how Daredevil season 2 puts all this together. I don't think it's gonna have everything we've talked about, and that's fine.
Right.
I want them to
Yeah.
do what works best. Because it ultimately is a Daredevil show. But I think the good thing about this upcoming season being the 6th season of television that Charlie Cox's Daredevil has been a lead in is that they don't need to do as much work. Like they have space for other characters to do stuff, Like obviously his character's still important, still has big arcs, but it's not like what they've done with a lot of shows where like they have to give an introduction and a backstory to a character and also establish one of other side characters. It's like no, there's a lot of space to bring in new characters. In
Yeah, they just need
in
to
the new season.
nail the Defenders, and
Yeah.
if they do have plans for more seasons of Daredevil, I feel like all this shit that we're saying is like can wait. If they can
Yeah.
like find ways to make it cool and put it in there, then they should look for those opportunities. But yeah, they just need to make. I mean, like everything with Marvel, just make a good product, and then the rest will kind of work itself out. Because right now, what's happening is some of these products are coming out very inconsistent, and I think that's hurting everything else. And like, and some of the stuff that is good is suffering from this idea of like, where do we fit it in, as opposed to just like, yo, just make a good show, put it out, let the people see it, and then we'll figure that out after the reception.
Yeah. Any final thoughts on the street level as we go through? Obviously, we haven't talked a ton about how these characters will fit into Doomsday, but I think ultimately, unless you guys have other thoughts, like I don't think most of them will. Like I could see them maybe throwing in the bigger names, but like almost what I would want to see in some level is like them being there to like pick up the pieces or manage stuff as the other shit's going on, because like they don't. I'd rather see them not involved in the main shit than look impotent with a bunch of characters who are more powerful than them. Like I don't need to see Daredevil trying to fight someone.
They don't need to do that. Like we saw that big ass cast list. This is clearly not a movie that's lacking for cameos. Like they don't.
Oh, it is.
Yeah, they don't need to be finding ways to like, okay, with Daredevil, like if they want to, and there's some reason for some small part, maybe, but like, at least for me, I don't need to see that. These shows are good on their own when they're good, and to me, they're the best when they don't need to be tied into something bigger.
Yeah, I think back to like back when after Infinity War came out and everyone was kind of expecting maybe some sort of like Daredevil cameo or something at the time, and then I don't remember if it was the Russo brothers or the writers or somebody made a comment that there was a version of the script or there was a point in time where they had sat down and they had talked about like, okay, so like if we wanted to bring these characters into this movie, how would we do it? And ultimately they realized like it would essentially amount to like a cameo during the final battle where they don't actually contribute anything to the story, and then it just adds more questions to their own shows. and like ultimately it's like a disservice to do something like that. So
Yeah.
so I kind of agree where it's like I don't think they'll be in Doomsday. If anything, maybe we'll get like a mention, like maybe a character mentions, oh, like, yeah, this guy back in New York is doing this thing. Like, sure hope he's still doing that. Like, whatever, I don't know, but I don't think we'll see him in Doomsday. I think maybe we'll see them in Secret Wars, where I think I worry that they will try to stuff every character who's ever been in a Marvel movie like into that movie somehow.
They're gonna try to pull the same trick again, which is unfortunate, but they're gonna try to do it.
They're gonna try to do it because it worked the first time.
Yeah,
so,
exactly. Unfortunately, yeah.
But yeah, I don't think they need to do it. And I remember when Infinity War came out, I was still like young enough to be like, oh man, I wish these characters I like showed up with these other characters. And I think now, after consuming a lot more media and learning more about it, I've settled into like what Rod said. Like, if they're gonna show up and it's just gonna be kind of a disservice to what's happening in their own project, then like just don't do it. I don't need it.
Yeah, I could. It's hard to imagine doing it without stopping the movie short, and it's already gonna be a 3-hour movie. Like, I just, it's not super necessary, and like, I don't think it takes away from them, at all. Like, I don't think that, the street level heroes. But
the last two things I'll add is that I definitely need them to talk about just how much crazy shit has happened in this universe since the last time they were together. That would be really cool if we get that in as Defenders. And if they're gonna wedge some small cameo parts into these next Avengers movies, it would be cool if they wedged the Agents of Shield people in there or something. Like that makes more sense to me of like supporting the Avengers and doing shit. Like it don't gotta be long, but I mean Clark Gregg, like how much are they doing that they can't like show up and have a cool
Well, I don't think it's a question of, it's not a question of they're busy. It's a question of I think the thing with Agents of Shield is I think
you didn't see that Powerpuff Girls pilot trailer?
Yes.
They're busy.
Chloe Bennett gang stand up.
I think that there's
never forget the Quake cameo in Across the Spider-Verse. I'm sorry.
Come on.
Right, yeah. That I think that the issue is that I think for a while, and this is I think why it was pretty easy for them to avoid putting the Defenders characters in, is that there really was a split between the Marvel TV and because like the Agents of Shield was even like further removed from the people who are making.
I'm not being 100% serious, but I'm saying if it's gonna be a 5-second cameo, I'd rather see those motherfuckers than like because it feels like a disservice to give 5 seconds of Daredevil, but like it's a cool callback to give me 5 seconds of Chloe Bennett.
Yeah,
and it could just be them like helping civilians away from the damage or something.
Them onto
like,
a shield or some shit.
Because if Chloe Bennett has like 2 lines, that's not disrespectful for her character. That's a fun cameo for fans. If Jessica Jones has 2 lines, that feels a little disrespectful.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. Thank you.
Yep.
I think in terms of like final thoughts on this too, I think this is the real last final thought is having so many of these characters be based out of New York. It's the age-old question of like, we've all seen Thunderbolts. Like they covered that entire city with the Void, and it's like, I know it doesn't have to get mentioned. If they never mention it in Daredevil, like I'm not going to be that upset. But there will be people who are like, okay, so that implies that like every character you've seen in Daredevil had to like spend some time in a shame room, and it's like, are we going? Like, does that get acknowledged? Like, does Matt show up in Doomsday and see Sentry and be like, hey, aren't you the guy that made me like relive getting blinded again or whatever? So I don't know, like that's always a thing when they're like, and this impacted everyone who lives in New York City, and then they cut to like the 5 projects they have about the people who live in New York City and like no one talks about it. That always like intrigues me a little bit.
Yeah, they need to somehow like make just like we're now all street level heroes in Atlanta.
We are street level heroes in Wyoming. That's what we're doing.
So thank you guys. You guys are better than street level heroes. There's nothing wrong with being a street level hero. You guys are great street level heroes. Or Dalbin, do you have a final thought? Or no?
No.
Oh, you raised your hands. But Dalbin, I know you're not on social media anymore, so I just want to thank you for coming out. Shouts to you for always being a friend of the show, always being there when we're ready to call. Rod, where can people find you? I see you got your baseball bat. Is that like, does that have like fake nails on it, or what am I looking at?
It's Lucille from Walking Dead.
Okay, that's what I thought.
But yeah, you can find me, the Black Guy Who Tips, everywhere you get podcasts. If you like my movie and TV opinions, check out the Black Guy Who Tips spoiled movie reviews, which is also available everywhere you get podcasts, and you'll hear my thoughts on I don't know, stuff like why Tom Cruise's last Mission Impossible movie is a statement on what we need in America right now. So make sure y'all guys check us out.
Mm-hmm. And Hunter.
I am Radesi. That is HRADESI and the number 14 on pretty much everything. I don't use social media that much anymore either. I used to do a lot of writing, so you guys can look up stuff I used to write. I don't do that as much anymore either. As Jake mentioned earlier in the pod, the brewery that I work for, KCBC, based out of New York City, we recently got to work with Marvel to make a beer for the Daredevil show. It's called Devil You Know. I have still seen it out there, so keep your eyes peeled for that if you are on the East Coast specifically. Yeah, I mean, follow. Yeah, there it is.
For it. I had to reach around for it.
Yeah, I mean, follow my Instagram because we're always kind of like trying to cook up stuff like that, and there might be some more fun stuff in the future that we get to do. So
I hope you guys get a cameo in next season, and it's Matt Murdock suing you guys for copyright infringement.
Word.
All
and
I want,
Jones has to come.
Yeah,
Marvel.
Jessica Jones comes in and it's like, God, I can't believe this place doesn't serve hard liquor.
Marvel, if you're listening, the only thing I've ever wanted in my life is to be like the guy who's like sitting in a bar when Daredevil or someone comes crashing through the window, and I'm like, "Oh my God, he's Daredevil!" And then
you guys have a great big window to crash through.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. So if anyone's watching, really easy to work with.
Make that your headline on LinkedIn. Great window for Daredevil to crash through. Like and then that's how we'll do it. Also,
you just happen to be drinking the beer while he comes in.
Just drinking. Great window to crash through. Also, Jake, before I go, we got an Iron Fist joke, right? We got a first base joke. And you just said I had to reach around to get.
I realized I said that.
That's 3 for 3.
I said that.
3
for 3. Exactly.
AC, hurry up and get back, man.
Yeah, so shout
out to
AC. AC, you can find him at AnthonyCanton_3. You can follow the show at MC University Pod on all platforms. And like I said, patreon.com/MC University Pod. This is what happens when you have 2 Patreons. We're doing a lot of cool stuff. We just did Fantastic Four 2005. We're going to be doing Silver Surfer later in the month. Going to have the Daddy's Pod, hopefully, that's still up in the air, but hopefully we'll have that. And then a mailbag. So this is a big month for us. We'll be covering Fantastic Four 2015 early next month because we're going to be doing all the Fantastic Four movies before the new one. It's going to be a lot of fun. AC is very mad that I talked him into doing this. But yeah, and you can follow me at the Jake Christie on all platforms, mostly Twitter. I'm on Blue Sky at just Jake Christie. And on TikTok at the Jake Christie. And please keep tuning in as we keep driving on the road to Doomsday.